Ukraine 2017 and the PetyaNotpetya Cyber attack by Steve Winkler. When, who, and why? When the initial reports began in June of 2017, who was affected and who did it? The attack was initially reported in Ukraine, which was dubbed the ground zero for the attack, but it quickly spread globally to other nations such as Spain, France, India, Germany, and so on. As to who did it, the Ukraine and the U.S. have come out saying that Russia was in direct correlation to the attack, while others suspect that North Korea or Ukraine itself could have had something to do with the attack. And as to why, it's quite unsure, since a ransomware portion simply seemed as a detriment to initiate other background attacks to steal credentials and seize operations of infrastructural systems. So here's a map of affected countries, and as we can see, Ukraine suffered up to 75% of the attack, with others following, such as Germany, Poland, Serbia, etc. So what does it exactly do? Well, first the attack pushes a ransomware. Then it utilizes an exploit called Eternal Blue, which leverages Windows vulnerability MS17-010, giving access to remote code execution sent directly to a Microsoft server message block. It then utilizes open source applications, Mimikatz, and Isodump to extract credentials and escalate OS privileges. And once it holds those credentials, it continues to spread via psexec and Windows Management Instrumentation command to remote access and initiate Windows-specific command lines for remote accessing. Legal and control. For legal and control, Ukraine initiated the law on the basic principle of cybersecurity of Ukraine on October the 5th, 2017, which was meant to ensure cyber defense of communication and technological systems, protect technological information, undertake independent cybersecurity audits, and instantly report cyber incidents to the government. Some issues with the law, though, were privacy conflicts with statutes that were in place for sectors such as banking and hospitals, but it was still pushed through to quickly mandate more specific cybersecurity procedures and legislation. NATO also specified that cyber attacks against any member of the alliance would trigger the Mutual Defense Clause, meaning an attack on one member of NATO is an attack on all members of NATO, which heightened the necessity to further protect and legislate cybersecurity protocols within Ukraine, since it was deemed necessary by its allies. A collective push for further cybersecurity procedures in government alliance, such as those with the U.S. and NATO, has been set forth to strengthen the Ukrainian cyber sector as well. Political and cultural aspect. Due to the tension at the time with Russia annexing Crimea and destabilizing the region a year prior, the PetyaNotpetya initiated a lot of finger-pointing to Russia as a prime suspect, especially since Ukraine suffered industrial and transportational damages. Later it was revealed that financial software based in Ukraine named Medoc was the initial vector for spreading the ransomware, which was widely used and distributed throughout Ukraine, claiming they were hacked and pushed through an update affecting systems using Medoc. The direct perpetrator of PetyaNotpetya is still primarily unknown, since PetyaNotpetya may have also wiped away evidence in espionage or even reconnaissance for future sabotage, but Russia remains at the helm of the entire incident, as in concluded investigations by Ukrainians seem to point fingers to. And cultural, since the incident, a Ukrainian and global initiative has pushed to further increase cybersecurity awareness and shift procedures for mitigating possible attacks. Though many still see it as a direct cultural attack on Ukraine, being an ex-Soviet state as initiated by Russia, with malware and operations still hosted by Russia attacking the region in Ukraine daily. So now we have the hierarchy of capabilities. Out of the four hierarchical capabilities, being cyber terror support, simple instructed, advanced structured, and complex coordinated, this attack would find itself at the advanced structured hierarchy. And here are the reasons given why. Specific targets were mandated through the Medoc software specifically, which just happened to be a large portion of Ukraine's industry and banking sector. The attacks affected multiple systems and sequentially spread from network to network while spreading to connected domains and networks. Tools such as Mimikatz and Isodump were altered and utilized with exploits carried out with Windows-specific tools, psexec, and WMIC. The technical portion was done via attacking software that the terrorists knew was largely distributed and used throughout the Ukraine. They would have to know how to inject the virus and initially disseminate, exploit it, which was the case since the software distributor was initially hacked. And what kind of classification or type of cyber attack would this be? Though the initial effect is a ransomware to the user, the behind-the-scene activity of stealing credentials, escalating, and potentially altering systems or enacting espionage would put this classification of both an information and an infrastructure attack. information attack. Due to the brevity of reported events and the lack of controls on the ransomware in general, it is unknown if data and information extraction was PetyaNotpetya's purpose. But the fact that credentials and escalation were used, it would be naive to pretend that information extraction was not initiated. And with ransomware in general, the process of encryption alters files and systems, making information unattainable or reader to the owning users or systems. Infrastructure attack. PetyaNotpetya debilitated the banking sector, some manufacturing sectors, and transportation sectors, which all play hugely in Ukraine's day-to-day infrastructure. With the ransomware ceasing production and system processes, damaging processes, and causing industry-wide chaos, it was certainly an attack attributing to infrastructural damages. And the aftermath and my own personal thoughts. The aftermath, Ukraine pushed a new law and some other laws and sought aid from the U.S. and NATO to both investigate and measure costs of damages internally and globally. The U.S. itself stated on 15th February 2008 that Russian military was behind the attack with a statement at this link. And then my personal thoughts. Within the current political climate of Ukraine and the U.S., along with their take on current politics for Russia, it is difficult to get a clear picture of the entire event. The incident definitely shows stacking vulnerabilities of application exploits and OS vulnerabilities that allow for those exploits. But with the laws and new control schemes in place to mitigate further attacks such as PetyaNotpetya, it's hard not to wonder if this wasn't simply a type of ongoing cyber war in parallel to Russia's current actions in the region, with Ukraine simply playing catch-up. And here are the references for all the facts and information throughout this slide.